All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. And we're coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, as well as the Global Star Radio Network. That gets us right through Europe, right into Northern Africa, right throughout the Middle East, and all across North America on Galaxy 19. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and our website where you can listen to the X Zone 724, 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Jack Duffy. He's a terrorism expert, nationally known legal expert, accredited attorney, and critically acclaimed author of The Man from 2063 and the upcoming novel about terrorism, B.L.A.C.K, M.A.M.B.A. America's plan to fight ISIS are in ruins as militant group fighters come closer to capturing Kobani and have inflicted a heavy defeat on Iraqi army west of Baghdad. The U.S.-led air attacks launched against Islamic State in Syria have yet to prove successful. President Obama's plan to degrade and destroy Islamic State has not even begun to achieve any sort of success. Unfortunately, in both Syria and Iraq, ISIS is expanding its control rather than contracting. Joining me now is Jack Duffy. And Jack, great having you back here in the X Zone. The last time you and I talked, we were talking about The Man from 2063.
Yes, that's correct. It's been a little while, but I'm glad to be back.
Well, we're glad you're back, Jack. And, just before you and I started talking, there was a news report that it seems that ISIS had previously captured an air base, and now the Iraqi pilots are teaching the ISIS people how to fly jets.
I hadn't heard that. That doesn't surprise me, though.
Matt and Jack, what's going on? Here we thought President Obama says, all right, we're going to get air support in there. Is it my imagination, or have the countries of the world underestimated the power and strength of ISIS?
Oh, I think so. There's no question about that. The United States, under Obama, in the last few months has, basically Obama, I don't blame our country, I blame Obama because he's the one that's in charge. He's the one that has decided not to do anything until so late in the game now. He decided to have airstrikes finally when the military told him you better do something, but that's not going to be enough to take out ISIS. We're going to have to put troops into Iraq and Syria, unfortunately, in my opinion, to stop this army because they've gotten too powerful now, and just bombing is not going to be enough to do it.
Jack, why, in your opinion, is the president so hesitant about putting boots on the ground to, just to get the ball rolling? Come on, guys, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's get in there, eradicate them, and get it over with.
Well, I think he ran on a platform of wanting to end a war, not start a war, and so I think he's stuck in that mentality. And even though his generals and other military advisors are telling him you've got to put people in there to fight this group, he just doesn't want to believe it or just doesn't want to do it for some reason. I don't know why he's not doing it. I really don't. I wish I could talk to him and ask him, but he's making a big mistake in my opinion. And every week that goes by that we don't do something, it's just going to make it worse and worse and worse until we're really going to have a problem.
What I can't understand, Jack, is that he put initially 4,000 troops into Africa to fight Ebola. Yesterday, he just called up another 3,000 reservists, putting them in Africa to fight against Ebola. Here we have 7,000 members of the military who have had no protective training against Ebola whatsoever. There is no known vaccine for Ebola, and he's putting them in direct harm's way. And just further up the continent of Africa, you've got a terrorist action that can actually cause a lot more havoc on American soil then
Absolutely.
it just doesn't make sense to me. And listen, I'm not a political expert. I'm not a military expert, but I'm just telling you as a John Q. public who's watching what's going on, I don't get it.
Well, I don't either. Like I said, I'm not a military man either, but I know enough to know from what I've read and researched that when you get a powerful group like this ISIS has become, and they've become very, very powerful, don't make no mistake about it, they're recruiting people from all over the world, which is dangerous. They've got Americans coming over to join them. They've got European people coming in and joining them. They've got people from all over the place wanting to join this group for some reason because they identify with their crazy ideology. And that's a real problem because when you have our own people, Americans wanting to join a group like this, and then who knows if they're going to come back into our country someday, which they probably will,
right,
be radicalized, and then they start coming over here and killing people over here in the United States. So it's just going to be like a mushroom effect. It's going to get worse.
Jack, please stand by. Great having you with us. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Jack Duffy, and we've had the pleasure of having Jack on before. Here's a couple of websites, jackduffyattorney.com, themanfrom2063.com, and blackmambajackduffy.com. And Jack Duffy and I will be back on the other side of this short break. Don't go away. Jack Duffy is our special guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, and Jack has a new book coming out. It's called Black Mamba, and Jack's website is blackmambajackduffy.com. And Jack, tell us about your book.
Well, I'm in the process of writing it. It's about 3/4 finished. I should be finished with it in the next 2 months or so, and then I hope to have it published sometime next year. I really think this is going to be a really exciting book, not because I'm writing it, but because I think people are going to like reading it. The book is basically about a terrorist organization, a fictional organization called Black Mamba, and I won't tell the audience what the acronym stands for because I don't want to give it away. But every letter of the name Black Mamba stands for something that makes sense when you put it together. This organization evolves from a rich guy, a billionaire, disenfranchised American billionaire who hates the United States. Of course, this is all fiction. He ends up turning on the United States. He has his own private island in the Pacific Ocean where he's a recluse. And he ends up starting a terrorist network, basically, with his own money, and it grows and grows and grows over time and becomes more and more powerful. He's a herpetologist, and that's where the name Black Mamba comes from, because there's the deadly African snake called the Black Mamba, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that's in Africa. And I researched the Black Mamba snakes. I was always interested in it because every herpetologist and science person who studies snakes will tell you that the Black Mamba is considered the most dangerous snake overall in the entire world, if you're going to rank them all by deadliness. The Black Mamba can kill a man in 15 minutes. If you get antivenom, you still have a 70% chance of not surviving, even with the antivenom. It's that powerful. It's the only snake that's ever killed an elephant in the history of the world that we know of. It's that powerful. This kind of snake is fearless. It will attack you at random. It will strike you repeatedly. Every time it hits you, it puts more venom into you. It's one of the most toxic venoms in the entire world. It's very fast-acting. And that's why the death rate is so high. And until there was an antivenom, it was 100% fatality if you got bit by one. So that's where I got the name for the organization. It kind of fits in with what they do. In the book, they use the Black Mamba snake to kill people, world leaders, instead of just killing with a bomb or shooting them, which is the way most people do it. They use more ingenious methods. They actually have snakes that come out of briefcases or out of compartments on airplanes. And, of course, the snake is there, it bites you, and you're dead.
Ouch.
So that's the part. So that's what the book's about. But it's a lot more than just that. The heroes of the book are two CIA agents, fictional characters who are patterned kind of like after James Bond. Because as a kid, when I grew up in the '60s, I always loved the James Bond movies.
Oh yeah.
Specifically Sean Connery. And so I wanted to write a book about a couple of fictional agents like Bond, who are they're my American Bonds. And these guys are the ones that go around and they're fighting this organization throughout the book, taking them all over the world. Doing different things, just kind of like James Bond does in the movie. So it's a very entertaining book. A lot of what's in the book is based on real stuff. It's not all fiction. Like, for instance, a plane gets hijacked, kind of like what happened in Malaysia. I have a different scenario about what happens in my book, but they hijack an American Airlines 777 in my book. Very clever way how they do it. I don't want to give all this away to the audience yet, but they kill a lot of world leaders in the book. They kill the head of Russia, who's based on a person like Putin. I did that because I don't like Putin. But they also kill other leaders in the world. They behead people. Basically, what Black Mamba does is they end up controlling all the terrorist groups that exist in the world. They end up controlling ISIS, Al Qaeda, the Red Brigade, every known terrorist group that's ever existed and does exist is basically becomes a member of their organization, or they just get wiped out by Black Mamba. So that part will probably never happen. I don't think we'll ever have a major group that can take over every other group and control them. But in the book, they do control them, and that's how powerful the group becomes. They become so powerful they use nuclear weapons against the United States. I don't want to give that away, but so there's a lot of stuff in the book that's kind of based on a lot of reality, and I think it's going to be a very entertaining, thrilling book.
Jack, what is the biggest threat the U.S. faces today from terrorists?
I think it's a nuclear attack, like what's described in my book. There's some suitcase portable nuclear weapons that the former Soviet Union had that have been lost or unaccounted for since the Soviet Union collapsed. And the CIA doesn't know where they are. The Russians aren't completely sure where they are. They don't know who's got them or if anybody has them or where they are located. And that's a scary thing because if one of those weapons falls into the hands of a terrorist group and they find out how to detonate it, then they'll do it. They'll bring it over here and they'll explode one in New York or Washington or someplace here in the United States. So I think that's our biggest fear right now. In fact, there was an interview with the current FBI director on 60 Minutes last week where he talked about that very thing, that was the biggest fear that our country has right now is a nuclear attack.
Jack Duffy is our special guest. He is the author of an upcoming book entitled Black Mamba. And Jack's website is, he's got 3 of them, but we're going to give you 2 because they're towards the writing that this man has done, and he's done a great job. The first one is themanfrom2063.com and blackmambajackduffy.com. Jack, do you think President Obama has done enough to fight ISIS?
No, I don't. I think he's way behind the curve. I'm very disappointed in what he's done and hasn't done. He just, like we talked earlier, he just seems to think that this isn't a big enough threat to really get too worried about it, and he's totally wrong. I mean, how can you ignore when they're beheading Americans over there on video? They're massacring people over there, machine gunning them down in ditches like the Germans did in World War II. They're crucifying people. They're beheading children. They're just doing the most incredible atrocities to everyone who disagrees with them, killing civilians right and left. Why he thinks that's not a threat is beyond me, because if they keep getting stronger and stronger, they're going to keep doing this to other countries. They're going to invade other countries. They may go into Saudi Arabia where the oil fields are. They've already got oil fields as it is right now. That's where they're getting all their money from.
Right.
They get about $6 million a day off oil that they're selling right now. That's why they're so wealthy. I mean, this group is a lot worse than Al Qaeda ever was. I mean, Al Qaeda even broke away from them because they were too brutal for Al Qaeda. Now, imagine that. Al Qaeda thinks they're too brutal.
The countries that are buying the oil from ISIS, shouldn't they be under some sort of sanction as well?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, they're financing this group, helping finance them by buying the oil from them. So, absolutely. How do you stop a group like this? It's kind of like how you stop Hitler. I mean, I compare him a lot to Hitler in some ways. I mean, this is the same kind of situation. You have to put an army on the ground, and we're going to have to get other allies like Germany, France, Britain, Australia, Canada, other countries like us who have something to lose in this fight, and some of the more reasonable Arab countries that are on our side, like Jordan and the United Emirates and some of these other countries over there, need to join in with us. And we're going to have a massive combination of troops from all sorts of countries to go in there and kill these people and get rid of them. I mean, that's the only way to beat them. It's
going to be interesting to see if ISIS invades Turkey or crosses into Turkey, because Turkey is a member of NATO. And according to what I understand, Jack, that if one country or one group or one entity attacks any member of NATO, then basically they're attacking all the members of NATO, which include the United States, Great Britain, Canada, and many other countries in the world that love democracy and freedom. If they do that, and Turkey that has a significant army, if Turkey doesn't do anything then, man, we've got real problems.
Right. I don't know if they're going to be crazy enough to go into Turkey or not, because then they're going to have a fight on their hands, like you said, because Turkey's pretty well armed and will fight. If they do that, then then we got to come in and help Turkey too, and Turkey will be joining the fight. So I think ISIS can be eventually defeated, but it's not going to be done overnight or within a month or two. It's going to take time to beat these people, because Obama's let them get to the point now where they're extremely powerful, extremely dangerous, and they're getting more and more stronger every week. They're not getting weaker; they're getting stronger. And when you let an organization keep growing and growing like this, it's kind of like Black Mamba in my book. It starts hitting all the world. I mean, they had ISIS was putting out threats in Australia. They were telling people, the followers in Australia, to go out and grab people on the streets in Australia and go behead them. I mean, that just happened just not too long ago. They were telling people to do that. They were telling their followers here in the United States to go hunt down people in the military and get their addresses and kill them in their homes. I mean, they're putting out threats all over the world. I mean, this is not a joke. I mean, this is not something to just take lightly. I mean, these people are serious about wanting to kill everybody.
I understand that putting boots on the ground in Syria, going against ISIS on the ground, it is against what President Obama wants his legacy to be. However, big deal. You've got a problem. Face it. It seems that the midterm elections also are playing a part in what's going on, and people are dying.
Right.
What do you think it'll take?
They just had a poll last night on O'Reilly's show that like 70% of the country disagrees or thinks Obama's doing a very poor job leading the country right now. All sorts of polls are saying that people disagree with what he's doing, how he's handling the country, not just foreign policy, but overall economy, everything. So he's not real popular right now. So most Democrats are disassociating themselves from Obama, who are running for office right now.
But he still has another 2 years in office. Is there anything that the American voters, the American public can do to either force him to act in their best behalf or get him out of power?
Well, the only way you're going to get rid of him is to have him get impeached. Or, of course, I don't want him to get killed, but he'd have to die in office.
Sure.
Impeaching him is probably not going to happen. So I mean, I think we're stuck with Obama for 2 more years, whether we like it or not. Hopefully, if the Senate goes Republican, which it probably will in November, then he's not going to have. Congress will be controlled by the Republicans, both houses, and he's going to have a real hard time getting anything accomplished. So he'll just be a lame duck for 2 more years. But then that doesn't help us any because he's still in there for 2 years. So I don't know what's going to happen.
All right, if both houses go Republican, doesn't he still have the option of signing executive orders that they cannot block?
I don't believe he can just unilaterally just pass whatever he wants to. I mean, he's going to have to get some congressional approval on certain things. He can't just do everything uniformly, unilaterally like he's trying to do. I mean, only Congress can declare war, for instance. I mean, he can't do that. So. He'll try to do whatever he can without having to get congressional approval, that's for sure, but he's going to be limited, in my opinion, about what he's going to be able to accomplish.
But hasn't he already taken actions that require the approval of Congress?
He has. He's basically just thumbed his nose at the Constitution and done what he feels like doing, and up to this point, he's gotten away with it, unfortunately. So I'm not in Washington. I'm not in Congress, so I don't know why they're not blocking him or why they're not trying to do something about it. But he definitely thinks he's the king and he can just do whatever he wants to. But as long as he's running the country the way he is right now, we're going to have problems the next 2 years, and it's not going to get any better. I mean, what I'm afraid of is that we may actually have another 9/11 on his watch, which I hope doesn't happen. I'm scared we're going to have another 9/11 before he leaves office, and it's going to be because of the way he's doing things that's going to cause it. I mean, he's broken down dismantled a lot of what Bush and Cheney put together to protect the country. He dismantled a lot of their policies. He did away with the waterboarding, saying it was torture, when CIA said it wasn't torture, it was legal. We got a lot of valuable information from terrorists by waterboarding them. So he's done away with that. He's done a lot of things to just make it a lot easier for terrorists to attack us.
All right, Jack, please stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Jack Duffy is our special guest. He has a new upcoming book entitled Black Mamba. His website, www.themanfrom2063, that's themanfrom2063.com, and blackmambajackduffy.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Nation, Jack Duffy is our special guest. He is a terrorism expert. He's CEO and president of the M.A.M.B.A. from 2063, Inc. He's an accredited attorney at law with over 20 years of experience. He is an expert in the fields of criminal defense, family law, personal injury. He is ranked in the top 100 attorneys by the Fort Worth magazine. BV, rated by Martindale Hubbell, recognized Jack for his legal ability and expertise. And like I said, he is the author of The Man from 2063, and his up and new coming book is entitled Black Mamba. Jack, when you look at ISIS, and you see the strength and the power and the money that this organization has, and it keeps on amassing, it keeps on getting its arms from the soldiers and the depots that they take over. And now I've even learned through a CNN report that it seems that they are teaching, the Iraqi pilots are teaching ISIS pilots how to fly captured aircraft. So not only are they going to be on the ground, but now they're going to be in the air. This puts a whole new spin on this terrorist group.
Absolutely. I hadn't heard about the pilots being trained, but it doesn't surprise me. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse. Once they get pilots who can fly jets, and then they can start shooting planes down and bombing places, and then they have their own little air force, basically. So it's just it's getting out of control real quickly here.
Yeah.
If I was Obama, here's what I would do. I would immediately start sending ground troops in and encourage other countries to come in and join us with their troops, and I'd start sending troops in and try to surround these people and just start taking them out like Patton did in World War II. I mean, it's the same kind of mentality. It's either them or us. They're not going away, and if we don't do something, they're going to be over here quicker than we think they are, if they're not already over here to begin with. I think they've already got operatives in this country right now, probably.
Of course.
So, go ahead.
It's going to be something to see. In fact, my producer is just getting me the information, and this is from Reuters. Islamic State flying 3 jets in Syria, and this is according to the Reuters news service, and all the other main services, including the BBC, are reporting the same thing. So NBC is also reporting the same story. So obviously the story has been vetted that now we have 3 jets that ISIS are learning how to fly. If this doesn't push the president into making the move that he should make, I don't know what will. Mind you, I don't think that these aircraft that ISIS are learning how to fly are any match for the coalition aircraft. But still, it's a flying bomb. To be honest with you, Jack, I'm surprised they haven't started using biological weapons yet. Because just imagine this: you've got people that have been radicalized from the United States and Canada who are over there in Syria. It wouldn't take very much for the ISIS to get a person who has Ebola. Get these radicalized Westerners infected with Ebola. The World Health Organization says the incubation period for Ebola is not 21 days, it's 42 days. Okay. So you get these people coming back to Canada and the United States with Ebola. If they're going to blow themselves up with a bomb, what would stop them from infecting as many people as they can before they died?
You're right. That's exactly correct, and that's something we've got to be concerned about. I agree with you. If they send some people over here who are infected, they could just start getting around people and infecting all sorts of people. Then it just spreads and spreads, and then you got a big epidemic. We don't want to give them ideas, but
no,
they probably have already thought about that.
Sure.
And, of course, there's other ways to hit us biologically, too. If they have other types of weapons that we may not be aware that they have, they could have chemical weapons. We don't know what they have or don't have. What I'm concerned about is they could just have people come over here and just randomly start killing people with guns, randomly start killing us with like suicide vests, suicide bombers. Just use that tactic, just have people walk into a crowded place like a movie theater, a shopping mall, or whatever, and blow themselves up and kill 40, 50 people at one time. So, that hasn't happened yet in the United States, but I can see that coming. All sorts of ways they can strike at us.
Do you think there's any connection between ISIS and Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappearing?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't seen any proof or evidence that they had anything to do with it, but who knows? I mean, Malaysia's got a big Muslim population over there.
Exactly.
For all we know, they might have had people that were connected with ISIS involved in that. I mean, we still don't know what really happened in that plane yet. We don't know if it crashed or if it was hijacked. They haven't even found the plane, so we don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, a lot of. When you look at all these things apart, for example, Ebola and then the missing Flight 370 and other little things that have happened over the past year is one thing. But when you start putting them together, it's like,
Right. Could there be a connection somewhere?
Yeah. So Jack,
we're
go on.
Getting back to my novel for
Yeah.
a minute, in my novel, they hijack a plane from Hawaii. The way they do it, and I have a good imagination. That's why I like to write books. But I hope I'm not giving them ideas in my book. But the way they do it is they have a pilot who's a regular employee of the American Airlines, a fictional pilot who's upset and ticked off at American Airlines because he was demoted and reprimanded for drinking on the job. And so he's mad at the airline, and he's become a Muslim and become a jihadist unknown to them. And he and his co-pilot, who's not involved with him, fly together a lot on flights. And so in the scenario I put in the book, it's kind of scary because it's very believable. It's very realistic what could happen. They take off in a jet with a plane load of people out of Hawaii, and the guy who's the jihadist kills his co-pilot. I won't say how he does it, but he kills the co-pilot once the plane's in the air. He gets on an oxygen mask, and he takes the plane up to 42,000 feet, which is the maximum altitude that those planes are designed to fly to. And without oxygen, everybody's going to die. As you probably already know, they die from hypoxia when the plane gets to that kind of level of atmosphere without oxygen. So he kills all the passengers on the plane by doing that. So he's the only one that's left alive now with the plane. He flies the plane below radar, like this Malaysia plane might have done, where they can't track it easily. Turns off the transponder. And in the book, of course, it's fiction to some degree, but he's able to fly the plane to the headquarters of this massive terrorist group that operates out of the Pacific. He lands the plane on their island. And, of course, nobody knows where the plane's gone now. And the plane's hidden in a hangar underground, which has specifically been built to accommodate a plane of that size. So that's what happens in my fictional world. But, something like that is very possible. Something like that could very easily happen, though, on a bigger scale.
Why do you think there's going to be another 9/11, Jack?
Because I think they're determined that they're going to hit us again somewhere a lot harder than they did the last time. When I say they, I mean it could be Al-Qaeda, it could be any group, but I just think they're determined they want to do more damage to this country, and they're thinking of another more diabolical way to kill more people the next time, and I think it's going to happen sooner or later, unfortunately.
I can't understand the mentality. I can't understand the thinking. It boggles my imagination, Jack, to see what these terrorists are getting away with, all in the name of religion. And yet, right. I see what is happening in France. I see what is happening in the United Kingdom, where Sharia law is being implemented. Mm-hmm. And why is Western society and Western thinking so afraid of these people?
Well, I guess we're afraid of them because they don't value human life like most civilizations do. They don't care about dying or killing people. In fact, the way they interpret the Quran is to kill everybody who doesn't agree with Muhammad. Go out and kill the infidels. And so, anybody who doesn't agree with their interpretation of the Islamic religion, they're just going to kill. So, we've never had an enemy quite like that in our history before. Maybe back in the Middle Ages or something, but not in the recent history. I mean, even Hitler wasn't like that. Even Hitler wasn't religiously motivated. He was just he wanted a supreme race, but he even wasn't doing some of the crazy stuff these people are doing.
Do you think it's possible then we need to take a look back in history and find out how the Muslim wars of days gone by were won, and take a lesson from history and start fighting fire with fire?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Getting back to the 9/11 thing you asked me about a while ago. Well, let me give you a very realistic scenario of how another 9/11 could happen, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. Let's say you have something like the way I describe in my book, where you have a couple of pilots who are Americans, who are not Muslim, who are not Arab, but for some reason have been converted over to their way of thinking. We don't know if somebody like that out there really exists or not. They may very well be out there. Let's say a couple of pilots get in the cockpit of a plane, and they're going to crash the plane on purpose. Now they have cockpit doors where you can't get into the cockpit as easily like you could back before 9/11. So these guys could literally take a plane off somewhere in the United States, fly anywhere in the United States, take off with a plane load of people, and pretend like they're flying to the regular destination. And they could do it on a day when there's a big event going on, like a football game in an NFL stadium or some big event somewhere where lots of people are.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Make sure they fly out of a city close by where that football stadium's going to be, close to when the game's going to be going on, they could fly over to that stadium and just fly the plane right into the stadium before the Air Force or anybody could react quick enough to do anything about it. I mean, you don't think that could happen? It could happen very easily.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And we saw that with 9/11.
Who said it had to be hijackers? And who said we have to have hijackers do it the next time?
Exactly. So when we look at the when we look at the big picture, Jack, using your legal experience and the way that lawyers think, and especially since you are an author and you can take it further than any other lawyer I've ever had the pleasure of talking to, how can the U.S. defend itself from attacks on Homeland?
Well, it's going to have to be through superior intelligence, like the CIA and the FBI working together. I don't know if you're aware, but before 9/11, I learned this from reading other books, that there was a wall between the two agencies before 9/11 happened where they could not really communicate with each other about what they had found out regarding enemies, foreign and domestic, that they were not allowed to communicate. There was like a wall dividing their two agencies. Of course, Bush took that wall down after 9/11, so now they can exchange information with each other now. But it's going to be intelligence is going to how we're going to defeat these people. We have to penetrate cells, find out who's up to stuff, who's talking about doing things, who's radicalizing people, who's writing things on Facebook or writing things on a computer, cell phones, intercept messages from cell phones. It's just going to be intelligence is how we're going to have to stop these people, because we've disrupted a lot of terrorist plots since 9/11 through good intelligence. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we've disrupted many, many plots that would have succeeded otherwise had we not gotten the right intelligence. So that's the way we prevented another 9/11 so far. But that's how we're going to have to stop these people. That's the only way to do it.
There are so many people who complain about Big Brother watching too much, that the intelligence agencies and the government has too much power. My response to them, Jack, is, if you've got nothing to fear, you have nothing to. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
So even the FBI is now going to Google and other internet IPs and internet search engines and saying, "Hey, listen, guys, you're using this encryption method that is tying our hands. We can't fight the bad guys. You're giving them illegal loopholes."
Right.
How do we convince the American public or the public in general that in order to fight in today's society, we need to give law enforcement and the intelligence agencies the powers that they need in order to protect us? And once again, I cannot understand why people get so sensitive about their privacy if they have nothing to hide.
Right. Well, I mean, some people think, well, I don't want everything that I'm saying on a cell phone or everything I'm writing on a computer to be able to, for Big Brother to be able to find out about it. Well, I agree with to some degree on that, but for the most part, the CIA is not monitoring every person's phone calls. They're monitoring. The FBI is monitoring people who are suspicious or who have raised a red flag through their activities, or they've been tipped off about somebody from some other person who's associated with this person. That's who they're really zeroing in on, because the vast majority of the American people are not going to become terrorists, obviously, and it's just a small percentage that's going to do harm to this country. So,
if you were president of the United States, Jack, what would you do?
If I was president right now?
Yes, sir.
As far as helping the FBI and the CIA catch people, or
this entire terrorist scenario that we've been talking about.
I would go back to doing what Bush and Cheney were doing. I would go back to installing the same tactics, procedures that they put in place, like waterboarding people, like they were doing before. I would give the Homeland Security a lot more power than they have. Which is kind of what Bush and Cheney did, to start intercepting phone calls and zeroing in more on people. I would ramp it up a lot more than what Obama's doing, and try to get back to the way Bush and Cheney were doing things back when they were in office, because they were doing it right, in my opinion. And Cheney even admitted that that's the reason why there was not another major attack after 9/11, because of the procedures that they put in place and the tactics that they started using against terrorists to get information. He talked about all the information that they got out from waterboarding, that it was very useful. I mean, that's how they found out about who was behind the 9/11 attack. The guy finally confessed that he was the mastermind when they waterboarded him, and so it does work.
Yeah, because these people certainly don't play by the by the rules. So I think that our law enforcement agencies or our intelligence agencies should fight fire with fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would start doing. I mean, I don't know if American people may not like it, but some of these big wigs that we've captured that are in Gitmo, that are their buddies, I hate to be ruthless, but you might want to take one or two of those guys out and behead them on TV, and let the enemy see. We can play this kind of game too with our prisoners. If you want to play that kind of game, we'll start killing your people over the same way you're doing our journalists.
An eye for an eye.
Exactly.
Jack, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, Jack Duffy is our guest this hour. Jack has a new book that will be coming out shortly. It's called M.A.M.B.A. Now, here's a couple of websites, www.theman from2063.com and www.blackmambajackduffy.com. Jack and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. You can listen to the X-Zone Radio Show at www.xzoneradiotv.com, or you can now call 213-401-0080. I'll be back on the other side of this break with Jack Duffy. Don't go away. Exonation, Jack Duffy is my guest, and during this hour you've heard me talk about www.theman from2063.com. And Jack, I was just wondering if you could just briefly tell our listeners who may not have had the opportunity of hearing you the last time you were on the show about The Man from 2063.
Sure. It's a novel about the JFK assassination that I wrote because I've always been fascinated with the Kennedy case, and we've talked about that before on your show. I've been studying the Kennedy assassination for 40-some-odd years now, and was really fascinated with the whole conspiracy side of the case because of what I discovered when I studied it for all those years. So I combined a fictional story with a lot of factual information about a possible conspiracy that might have killed JFK, or rather that I think did kill JFK. And the book is about a lawyer who goes back in a time machine from 100 years after the assassination, and he basically goes back and finds out that there was a conspiracy and that he prevents Kennedy from being killed in the book, and JFK survives and serves out 2 terms and changes everything. And there's no Vietnam War, for instance, because Kennedy doesn't die. And so it's a real interesting book.
What do you think happened to JFK? Was he a target of an assassination conspiracy? Was Lee Harvey Oswald the lone gunman? Was there a magic bullet? Was there somebody on the grassy knoll?
I think I could prove right now in a courtroom that Oswald didn't even fire a shot, but we don't have enough time to go into all that right now. But there's tons of evidence that's come out in the last 50 years that now proves that Oswald probably didn't fire a shot at Kennedy. But anyway, I do think Oswald was set up by whoever killed the president. I think he was killed by Ruby on purpose to shut him up so there wouldn't be a trial, because the conspiracy knew that Oswald was not the trigger man, and they had to get rid of him. He was their fall guy. They had to have somebody take the blame, and he was the one that was the fall guy. So it was obvious that there was more than one shooter that killed Kennedy because of there's just too much evidence. We don't have time to go into it all right now, but the doctors in Dallas that I talked to, for one thing, all said there was a conspiracy, that there was more than one shooter. There was one from the front and from the back.
Wow.
So you just start with the doctors to begin with, and you have a conspiracy. So,
Jack, what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite you back on closer to the anniversary of the JFK assassination, so we can talk in detail about the conspiracy as well as the assassination. So, Jack, always great talking to you. What's your final message to the X-Zone Nation tonight?
Well, I just want us to wake up. I want Obama to wake up before it's too late, because we are under a real threat from this ISIS group. The whole world's under a threat from these people. They're serious about what they're going to do to us if we don't stop them. And I just don't want to wake up someday and have another 9/11 attack happening somewhere in the United States that could have been prevented because we sat around and didn't do anything. So I hope Obama will wake up and go take some direct action to try to fight and kill these people before it's too late.
Jack, as always, great talking to you. Where can our listeners get a copy of The Man from 2063?
It's available on Amazon. It's also available from Barnes & Noble stores, and it's also available from the publisher Tate Publishing. That's Tate Publishing.com. They sell the book also. It's also out in audio, Kindle, and paperback.
Fantastic. Jack Duffy, thank you so much for joining us. Continued success, and I look forward to talking to you in the month of November about the JFK assassination. Until then, my friend, stay
Absolutely.
safe.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good night, Jack. Take care of yourself. Exo Nation, my guest this hour has been Jack Duffy, and we've had the pleasure of talking to Jack before about the man from 2063, and Jack will be joining us as we get closer to the anniversary date of that fateful day in November in 1963 when President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. One of the greatest mysteries of all times. Who killed JFK? Some believe Lee Harvey Oswald. Some believe it was the military because they didn't want the war in Vietnam not to happen. Some believe that even President Johnson, then Vice President Johnson, had his hand in it. It's going to be an interesting hour when Jack Duffy joins us back here in the X Zone as we discuss the man from 2063. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour. But once again, for more information on Jack Duffy, the man from 2063.com and Black Mamba JackDuffy.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. And we're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, across North America on Galaxy 19, and now throughout Europe, the Middle East, and Africa on Europe's Hotbird satellite. We'll be back. Don't go away.